Sparking Change for Harmonious Living is a TV show that inspires action. It motivates you to start a journey towards a more balanced, fulfilling life. This show explores well-being through spirituality, mental clarity, and physical health. It covers topics like mindfulness, nutrition, fitness, and spirituality, giving you practical advice to enhance your life. Tune in for a transformative adventure that ignites the change you seek.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I'm your host, Jabana Tartaron.
And I'm your co-host, Ahmed Bahman, and we're here today to discuss about compassion and forgiveness.
Yes, absolutely. It's a journey that everyone must go through in life, and forgiveness is really a part of our heart, opening up our heart, right? And given that today we're very close to the holidays, I thought this would be so appropriate to do because I know many families are opening up their doors, but also at this time, forgiveness is so important so that you can be together and celebrate these beautiful holidays with your family. And I thought this show was just really dedicated. It's dedicated to all who seem to have to go through this process of forgiveness so that you can really enjoy the holidays. So let's just get right into it, Ahmed, to talk about how important is it forgiveness in our lives and what does it do to us mentally, emotionally, and physically?
Well, if you don't forgive, you're basically holding on to toxic, poisonous thoughts. Now, what have we learned? We learned that thoughts are things, right?
Of course.
And the more we keep thinking of these toxic thoughts, eventually it will give us negative emotions. Is that healthy for us? No. It will make us sick. Eventually, it will manifest in many forms.
I just wanted to point out, and I'll never forget, and I'll always stick it to my mind. Dr. Wayne Dyer says, it's not the snake bite that hurts. It's the venom that you keep inside your body. Right?
Yes.
So when you don't forgive, you're holding on to that venom, that poison, those toxins that really hurt you.
Absolutely. I remember there was a story that Bob Proctor shared one time. Actually, he shared it on many occasions, to be honest. And he said that when he was younger and he embarked on this journey in a way, and he wanted to travel at a time, but he kept having this tremendous amount of headache. You know, he used to take a painkiller a day, then it became 2 painkillers a day, then 3. And it just kept getting worse no matter how many painkillers he took. He can't seem to figure out what was the cause of his migraine. So he was at the airport and he was about to pass out. A man that was close, near where Bob was, saw Bob, having some difficulty trying to hold still. Bob was about to catch a flight. And this man approached Bob and said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I don't know. I have this bad headache and I feel I want to pass out." And he said, "Okay, just stay right here." He says, "But I have a flight to catch." And he told Bob, "It's so fine. You'll catch the next flight." And then he basically, tried to figure out what's wrong with him. And he's been taking this many painkillers and there has been no solution. He asked Bob one question. And the question was, have you forgiven in your life? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean forgiving people. It could be yourself.
Of course.
So he went on to realize that he needed some help. a professional help. And he said that he went to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. He said, I attended there for a few sessions to the point that I realized I don't need to go there anymore. His headache went away. He stated that it's your head, you made it ache, you can make it stop. There are many, many emotional triggers that we hold on to by not letting go that disrupts the natural harmonious flow within your heart and body.
So true.
Why are we keep doing that? It's because of ignorance. We're ignorant of the functions on how toxic emotions manifests in certain conditions based on the conditioning that you hold inside. The good news is that we can always go back in alignment by using the principles of the laws that have been laid out before us. And one of the greatest laws is
Don't
the
forget,
law of forgiveness.
we are meant to forgive. We're not meant, right? God forgave us.
Absolutely. I
We're
mean,
meant to do the
most
same.
people's God is the greatest forgiver.
Yeah.
And if we are souls, we are divine beings. We're beings of light. If God can forgive everyone, who are we to judge? If God shines the rays of his sun upon the pious and sinner alike, who are we to judge?
We're
You
punishing ourselves.
cannot move on. You cannot move on if you're dwelling in the past of something that has or someone has wronged you. Why give energy to something toxic and make it grow over time?
We're actually punishing ourselves when we do that,
We're
when we
punishing
hold on.
we're punishing ourselves. And Bob also stated, he described Buddha. He said Buddha stated that when you're holding guilt and resentment, it's like holding a hot, fiery coal in the palm of your hand that you want to throw it towards someone else, but you can't. You're literally burning inside. What kind of a stressful environment are you in internally?
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned in the readings that your environment, you need to do a cleanse of your environment when you've had
Absolutely.
bad experience where you're holding grudge and resentment.
Your environment is a reflection of what is gone inside. And if you have a lot of toxic thoughts and junk ideas in your mind and heart, that's what you're harboring, that's what you're hoarding, what you're going to see on the outside. Similar conditions that make you feel the same over and over again. Now, a lot of people say, oh, but we need to do housekeeping for the house, for example. Well, why can't you do a mental housekeeping so that it may result in an emotional housekeeping? Many times I have heard that if you want to know if a person is organized in their mind or not, go have a look in their car, go look at their house. A disorganized car with a lot of stuff scattered around, same as a house, can tell you a lot about a person.
So true.
Everything starts from the mind. But we need to be consciously aware and to identify what has triggered these emotions in me that is causing these effects. And then make the mental adjustment that's required through Forgiveness, forgive yourself, and if you can't, then repent in order that you may upease the law.
Release those emotions, right? Because they're
Release
just
those
blocking you and
emotions.
hurting you. Totally.
Let go of completely. A lot of people say, oh, I forgive, but I can never forget. No, then you have never forgiven. If you're going to forgive, then you got to forget.
And if you're not forgetting, you know you truly didn't do it at a very core level, right? You did it only on the conscious level, but you didn't go in your heart. You didn't use your heart to forgive.
I had a health condition, for example, and I realized it was also rooted with my guilt.
Mhm.
I couldn't forgive myself, and I couldn't heal myself. I didn't know what was wrong. When I forgive people that hurt me emotionally for a long time, that I've held some grudge, something released. My body started going into ease. And when I couldn't heal myself, and I went to many doctors, I said, okay, how can I get the healing? I saw a lot of sick people. I connected with them. I helped to heal them, regardless of the pain that I had. My healing came back to me gradually, by people coming my way, introducing me to new methods. So, my thing is this: if you cannot forgive unconditionally, and if you're ever stuck at some space that someone is not forgiving you, don't expect to be forgiven. You abandon, you forgive and forget, you let go of completely. And I want to go back to Raymond Hollywood's book when he described about the law of forgiveness. He was describing about Peter the disciple. He said, was greatly perplexed one time while listening to one of the many lessons of the master. He raised the question, which is the basis of this lesson. And he goes on to say, turning to Jesus, he asked, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me? And I forgive him until 7 times? Now, this was in Christianity. He said, now this was a generous gesture on his part, for the Jewish law, which he had known, allowed a man to be forgiven 3 times. Can you imagine what kind of a generous offer that was? For the Jewish law, which he had known, allowed a man to be forgiven 3 times. This was more than twice the grace that the law allowed. So Peter must have felt the Lord would be pleased with his extension of forgiveness. Now get this part. But he found himself more perplexed when Jesus answered, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Wow. 70 times 7. What number would that give us? If you use a calculator, you're going to hit 490.
Repetition.
How many times would I allow someone that wronged me for me to forgive? Such a period would be indefinitely, so by that answer, there are no limits or restrictions to the Spirit graces. God is unlimited. We need to look at things from a God's eye point of view. The quality of forgiveness must be as limitless as faith, hope, and love. And there is a very good reason why Jesus said 70 times 7. It's because it takes enough times of repetition of this practice that it may change what we have within our subconscious conditioning and bringing the realization of forgiveness as the truth basis of upeasing the law within us. As within, so without.
It also changes the perception of that situation, right? But I just want to take it back a little bit and just define the word sin, Ahmed, because there's many definitions out there, but we spoke about this, right?
Bob explained it beautifully. He said that he's been taught that if you sin, the price of sin is death. You know, when we were kids, we were always afraid. They've taught us, okay, if you sin, you're gonna go to hell. And if you don't, then you're gonna go to heaven. But we didn't have a proper understanding. He said, Bob said that one day he was gonna test it out. And he was gonna say a bad word to see if this sin was gonna cause him to die, because the price of sin is death. He said he went ahead even though he was afraid, and he said it anyways. And then he realized, okay, he was still alive. But the point is, where he came to understand is that when you sin, sin is going against the law. Sin is a transgression of the law. You're transgressing. So instead of you're striving to go ahead in life in any activity that you're doing, I hope it's a noble one because it counts. But if you're sinning, you're going backwards. And you're realizing, I'm putting all this effort. Why isn't it going through?
You know,
It's so beautiful.
I'm sorry, what comes to mind is that we mentioned that it's a mistake.
It's a mistake. It's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
See, with knowledge, you gain an understanding. Therefore, you use the law in its rightful terms and conditions.
Beautiful.
Now, ignorance is where misunderstanding stems from. Therefore, you form a mistake. But a mistake is nothing but a misunderstanding.
That's it. And so if we can see it from that point of view, holding a grudge, holding resentment, we're human. We're allowed to make mistakes.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important to have compassion and forgiveness, right? Because this is part of life. And I also think in some way we put to a test sometimes. We're being tested. Do you have compassion? Do you have a beautiful heart to forgive? Because that is the proof when you do forgive, you actually get rewarded because now it feels good within you that you've taken the action to forgive.
Absolutely.
So beautiful.
You know, I heard a saying once on TV. It says, to sin is human, but to forgive is divine.
So good. So good. No, we go into the ego and the soul. When we're not forgiving, we're working from the ego,
Yes.
right? And knowing that to release the pain from the event and to send love and blessings and have compassion to those who've done you wrong, it is the biggest gift that you're giving yourself.
Yes.
Right? I know that we also spoke about how your inner self, when you've done something wrong, even though no one's looking,
Yes.
right? I remember a quick story about a man walking down the street, and he throws a tissue on the floor. Before he throws it, he looks left and he looks right, and he throws the tissue on the floor. No one's looking. And he keeps walking, but some voice is saying to him, that was wrong.
Yes.
And I
It's
remember
your conscience.
your conscience telling you. And I remember you also said that your uncle made a statement that I loved about.
It was my father,
It was
actually.
your father that said,
Yeah.
why have another man
Backbend.
backbend on what you do? That was so like heart-wrenching, right? Just to know that what we do creates something, an action from another person.
Yes.
So your
And there
conscious.
was it's if you're inducing suffering, you'll end up to suffer. Why make another man suffer or another woman suffer? So there was I forgot, there was a monk who said a person's suffering cannot end unless he helps to alleviate the suffering of others in his environment. Wow. And it struck me one day.
So
We
good.
make a lot of wrong decisions based on wrong thinking, and then we end up feeling guilty. Why did we do it? Right? One of the greatest gifts we have, even Napoleon Hill stated, he said, never be the person who kills his own conscience. Many people abuse their own conscience until it dies. But this is where your heart is alive. One person once asked me, he said, can your conscience stop you from doing wrong? And I said, yes, without even thinking. And he says, no. He said, your conscience can give you an indication about what's right and what's wrong. It will not stop you from doing wrong, for that if you do wrong, it will not allow you to enjoy it.
So beautiful. And so true. So true. Because consciously you know that wasn't the right thing.
Absolutely. So I had quite a trouble with decision making when I was younger. And I have an uncle who I always used to go to for guidance. And one day I asked him a question. I said, how can I know that if I'm making the right decision or the wrong decision? And he said, well, you have to evaluate how many consequences you have on the negative side and how many consequences you're going to get as a result on the positive side. And he said, see whichever is more and make your decision based on it. So if the negative is outnumbering the positive, don't do it. And vice versa. If the positive is outnumbering the negative, go ahead. And we didn't discuss about if it was moral or not. He was just describing mechanically on the outcome. One day, I was startled by an equal amount of outcomes in both areas, negative and positive. And I just couldn't make a decision. I called him up and I said, I've done the process that you have guided me with for a few months, but now I'm stuck.
Mhm.
I said, what should I do in this scenario when I have equal amount of outcomes in both ways? And he stayed quiet for a few seconds, and then he answered me right away. He said, well, I'm going to tell you. I said, okay, what is it? He said, ask yourself this question. The thing that I'm about to do, is it something that is pleasing to God or not? We may lose $1 or $2 in business, but if it's for a moral and ethical reason that keeps the heart clean, let it go. Let it go. Man-made rules may be bent, or man-made rules were meant to help those who are operating from lack and limitation. But we shouldn't while we know that God is abundant.
Absolutely.
God's laws can never be bent or broken.
That's where we feel the imbalance, right? We're not inharmonious.
Absolutely.
That was beautiful, Ahmed. Thank you so much. So,
You're
everyone,
most
I
welcome.
hope this show can really touch your heart, open your heart, have compassion, and forgive. Forgive everyone. It will just come back to you to make you feel your best. Want to wish you happy holidays, right? Happy Thanksgiving here in the US. For those of you who are celebrating with your families, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Ahmed.
See you all next week. Thank you, everyone.
Beautiful show.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change for Harmonious Living.